Hello, universe. Welcome to the most spectacular wrestling podcast you will find on the internet. You are listening to Tag Me In, bro. I'm Joe Tantillo, and as always, I'm seated next to my terrific co-host, Taryn O'Connor. Say hi to the people, Taryn.
Hi to the people, Taryn.
If you're new to the show, the format is simple. Each week, we discuss all the magnificent moments, turbulent times, and stunning surprises that professional wrestling has to offer.
So turn your radio up and your opinions down, because we've got some hot tags coming up NXT, which means next.
Give me a hell yeah. I said give me a hell yeah.
What's up, WWE Universe? This is Taryn. Happy post-Memorial Day weekend. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday. I am certainly feeling refreshed, back, and excited to talk about another episode of SmackDown. We are well on our way to Money in the Bank. We will be talking about all the best events from last night's show. Now remember, guys, you don't want to miss out on one single second of Tag Me In Bro content. So go on Twitter right now and follow us at Tag Me In Bro. We just broke 5,000 followers, so thank you guys so much. Keep following. We do so much fun, we have so many fun polls. We do such fun interactive stuff. We have a competition going for our prediction series. You don't want to miss it. Go on Twitter, follow us, subscribe to the podcast. And now I hope everyone is excited for the show, because it is about to go down in a big way. If it's your first time here with Tag Me In Bro, you'll know that we talk about wrestling every single day of the week. I'll cover the show. So basically, if you're new, we start with the SmackDown speed through, where we'll give you our analysis of the most important bits of last night's show. After that, we've got our Hi to the People segment, where we're going to talk to you guys to find more about your views on a certain WWE subject. This week, it is who do you think should be the number one contender for Jeff Hardy's U.S. Championship? Then we're going to move on to our main event. We'll be talking about the question on everyone's mind this week. And then we will close out the show with our stars of the night. This week, the question on everyone's mind that we're going to be talking about is, what is SmackDown Live doing with their women's division? We'll get to that a little bit later in the show. But now let's get to our SmackDown speed through.
Woo!
Here are the only 5 things you need to know about SmackDown Live this week. Number 5, Asuka beats Mandy Rose. Of course. Number 4, Tye Dillinger was on TV. Confirmed not dead. Confirmed live. Number 3, Lana and Naomi have a dance-off. Why? Number 2, The New Day defeat The Bar and The Miz. And number 1, Samoa Joe qualifies for the Money in the Bank ladder match. Okay, so starting from the bottom, and it really kind of is the bottom, Asuka beats Mandy Rose in a segment that no one is surprised by. They try to give Mandy Rose a little bit of an upper hand by having Sonya Deville come out and beat up Asuka before the match. Asuka still wins, as she should. Case closed. SmackDown's a really short show and we need 5 topics. Okay, 4, Tye Dillinger was on TV. Yay! And then he immediately lost to Shinsuke Nakamura. But it's okay, because it was a good match. Shinsuke Nakamura did his whole counting to 10 thing that was a little bit cringy, but honestly kind of fun. And it meant that we got to see Tye Dillinger on TV. The two, it was a good match. The two were great. It reinforces the fact that Shinsuke is continually developing as a heel. I think his character has seen incredible development, and we're always happy to see Tye not just in the locker room. So, yay. Number 3, Lana and Naomi had this dance-off, and the reason that this is here is because we are here to also mention the moments that did not please us. So, Naomi came out with the Usos, Lana came out with Rusev Day, and Lana and Naomi had a weird bad little dance-off. Lana ended up turning on Naomi. She hit her with a neck breaker. They kind of go about, their husbands kind of go about, and then Naomi hits Lana with the rear end, or is it called the rear view? I'm not really sure. She hits her with a butt, and it's a finisher, and it's very cool. And so she gets her revenge super quickly. It's kind of done and dusted, which means why? Why did we do it? If it was just going to be that weird segment, did we really need to fill time that way? It could have been an interesting moment to show more diversity in Lana's character, to potentially build a little bit of a side feud that could cost one of them their women's Money in the Bank moment. But instead, they kept it real nice and wrapped up in a bow. And sometimes we don't want things nice and wrapped up in a bow. Sometimes we need that to develop. But I really do think it goes back to this concept that Lana's in this match potentially before she's ready. She's a little too limited to create that viable threat atmosphere for the match. And yes, they need a lot of women for the match. But like, I don't know. It's not doing anything for me, guys. It's just not. But number 2, great match, absolutely great 6-man tag match. The New Day versus The Bar with The Miz. Really solid match, like especially for Big E, who ended up like gaining the pinfall, I should say. They looked really strong. The New Day still have not announced who will represent them in the Money in the Bank ladder match, so we are still waiting on pins and needles, but every single member of the team looks amazing. So we're excited to see. And then number 1, Samoa Joe qualifies for the Money in the Bank ladder match. This was an amazing match. Samoa Joe versus Daniel Bryan versus Big Cass. Why, Cassidy, why must you be here? Why are you involved in this part of the show? I'm not really sure. But Samoa Joe versus Daniel Bryan, great. Great, super exciting. Excellent to see. They teased it last week. We were excited to see it this week. And it was amazing. Samoa Joe's promo that was like very intense and passionate and biblical was fantastic, was absolutely incredible. And I think some of the best work we've seen Samoa Joe do since he returned from injury, which is really nice. It made it all the sweeter when he won and qualified for the ladder match. It'll be great to see him in that ladder match. And it opens up a lot of possibilities for what they will do with Daniel Bryan and with Big Cass. Please, dear God, don't fight each other. I don't care. I don't want to see that. But it means that Daniel Bryan is potentially, I don't know, available for like a US championship match. And that would be really nice. Or that Big Cass could maybe, I don't know, sit on a tour bus that went in the wrong direction and didn't end up at the pay-per-view. So congratulations to Samoa Joe for qualifying for the Money in the Bank ladder match. He is the newest participant that we have seen added, and he concludes our SmackDown speed through. We thought that it was a really good episode. We are getting to a point where like I kind of just want to see Money in the Bank. A week like last week, the segments were so good that you didn't mind that it wasn't all title-based and that it wasn't all qualifiers because there was character development, there was storytelling, the jokes were funny. And right now I think we are seeing that consistently with groups like The New Day, The Bar, and The Miz, but we are not seeing it so consistently with things like the women's division. Again, like we'll talk more about that later. But let us know your thoughts on social media. Tweet at us. Email us, do whatever you want. And speaking of social media, it is time to say hi to the people. This week on Hi to the People, we want to know your thoughts on who should be the number 1 contender for Jeff Hardy's U.S. Championship at Money in the Bank. Right now, no one is confirmed. There is not a confirmed match. There's no confirmation that the title will be defended, but we would like to see it defended, and we want to know who you think should fight Jeff Hardy for that U.S. Championship. We'll be running a Twitter poll for the next 72 hours and discussing the results here on the show next week, so let us know exactly what you think. You can vote on Twitter by tweeting at us and using the hashtag #HotTag, or emailing us at tagmeandbro@gmail.com if you want, just to share your opinion and maybe have your thoughts read out on the show. Every week, we read out some of our favorite responses. And speaking of responses, we're going to talk about the results of last week's topic. So last week, we asked which member of the New Day should represent them in the Money in the Bank ladder match. Again, they have not given us any clue as to who it will be, but overwhelmingly, with 50% of the vote, you guys said Big E. So you guys said Big E. We had almost 300 votes, so that's fairly substantial. And I think the least popular vote, I'm going to check it now, but was Xavier Woods with only 20%. Yep. Kofi had 30, so a really interesting split there, but overwhelmingly, you guys said Big E. And honestly, after this week, I cannot think of someone we would rather see represent the New Day in that match as well. So super interesting. Some of our favorite comments came from Cameron Bro Dameron. What a great name. At Cam Martin 9 for saying, I think Kofi deserves it. I think Big E will be the biggest star. I think Woods is the all-around best of the three. I'd be happy with any of them. And that is why they are like the longest reigning tag team champs of all time, because they are all amazing. But we totally agreed with that. We thought that was a great take. Benjamin Waters, at Benjamin D. Waters, he said, I could see Big E being able to stand toe-to-toe with Brock, which is a big call-out, but I really do think shows the star potential of Big E, which is something that we are super excited to hopefully see more prominently in the future. So great. Let us know your thoughts this week. We love that discussion from last week. There were a lot of comments. We love when you guys get excited. So let us know what you think. If we have an option that isn't there that you really want to see, let us know who you believe in and who you want to see be the new number one contender for the U.S. Championship. Now it's time for our main event. This week on our main event, we are talking about what SmackDown Live is doing with its women's division. Joining me is my co-host Tommy Rowe.
What's up?
So Tommy, what are your current thoughts on how SmackDown Live is booking and treating its women's division?
It's not going well, Taryn. It is not going well. I think Money in the Bank is always an interesting time of year because you get the chance to highlight a bunch of up-and-coming talent. You look at the people in the match, the most up-and-coming talents are in it. You've got, at least from SmackDown, Lana, who's, I guess, learning to wrestle, but also good at dancing, which we learned this week. Fantastic to know. Mm-hmm. And also Peyton Royce, who I think is a really good addition to that match, and you kind of get the opportunity to show your stuff on a big scale. However, you do find a lot of holes in the women's division on SmackDown when you look at this roster. The split right now, heels to faces, is just not really great. You have one established heel who is the champion, Carmella, and then the heels of the women's division, of which I guess there are 4 plus Lana. 2 of them are former members of Absolution who got called up in January, and the other 2, the Iconics, were called up during the Superstar Shakeup. I mean, you can't build storylines around conflicts that just don't make sense.
Yeah.
We saw a little bit this week of Charlotte and Becky kind of being like, I'm gonna win. No, I'm gonna win. And we're like friends who drink tea, which is really stupid. But I think that specifically was a moment in which I just want Becky Lynch to turn heel, because I think she will be a great foil for whoever wins the Money in the Bank contract and cashes in maybe on Carmella, or just turning on Charlotte. That would be a great feud. I think generally on SmackDown right now, what you don't have are enough established personality-based heels other than Carmella to really create conflict.
And I think that's exactly right. I think that's such a good point. And I think it does go back to something you said in there, which is, would it be a great feud? And to have a great feud, not only do they have to have these established characters, which I think you're so right, they have not taken the time yet to truly split and establish and develop, but why are they all there? And what claim do they have to anything?
Right.
Like, I think that with the call-up of the Iconics, I was so excited because Billie Kay and Peyton Royce really don't need a reason to insert themselves into anything.
Yeah,
that's just their characters.
Yeah.
Is that they've got an opinion about everything and an opinion about everyone, and that they're happy to run their mouth, and that allows for people to respond. And those responses allow for these feuds to build. And instead, they've buried them. I mean, Billie Kay predominantly, but even Peyton Royce came out and lost. Like, you don't really lose your debut match on the main roster, and Peyton Royce, like, did.
Yeah, and even though she's in the ladder match now, it doesn't matter, because when you lose your debut, everyone remembers.
Like, does she feel like a viable threat?
No.
And I think that's just it. She doesn't. And I think the reason that she doesn't is because they're not taking the opportunity that they have to build this new talent. And instead, they're relying on these weird, cheap gimmicks, like Charlotte and Becky coming up with their own stuff because they are real-life friends,
Mm-hmm.
or weird gimmicks that are being written, like the Naomi-Lana dance-off.
Yeah.
And you're like, these are one talented woman and also Rusev's wife. And, like, what is the point of having Naomi, probably one of the most, if not the most truly athletic women in the women's division, and Lana, who we do not like, I mean, if anyone like looks at stuff outside of kayfabe, like Lana was a dancer, she's incredibly flexible. They're both former dancers. They both have a lot of acrobatic skill and flexibility. And we don't really see any of that. WWE has this giant base of talent and they're really ignoring most of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not doing the division any justice, because at the end of the day, when you look at it, I'm looking at it and kind of saying, what's the point? Shouldn't we fast forward through it?
Yeah, I agree. And when you, my difficulty right now is that when you look at something like the dance-off, that's probably the people backstage being like, you know what, this is how we highlight our talent. No, it's a wrestling show. What does dancing have to do with it? This is so stupid. And it is really undermining all of the good progress that has been made in terms of like creating respect around women's wrestling in WWE. Like anytime there's a rap battle with the men, you're like, oh, they're entertainers, they're not wrestlers. That's not a bad thing if it happens to them, but it is a bad thing when it happens to the women, because their place of respect among the audience and among the hardcore fan base is quite fragile, more than a lot of people think. Mm-hmm. You see the responses sometimes to, I don't know, I don't think the community as a whole is as accepting as one might think, especially when you see the kinds of responses at live events. Those of us who have gone can see that.
Yep.
But when it comes down to it, it is a really fragile situation that they're in terms of booking the women, and to do things like a dance-off really just not helpful for anybody.
No, I think they're very much so in the situation of, if you treat those feuds and characters with respect, you'll build feuds that people are interested in, and people will respect those performers because they'll have the opportunity to do so. Whereas like right now, if the reason you're there is just so you can get some airtime, because like we really should give the women some airtime, like how can you expect anybody to develop a true respect for that when it feels like it's pandering?
Absolutely.
And it feels like it's pandering for the sake of political correctness, as opposed to what it is, which is an opportunity to highlight very, very talented athletes.
Absolutely. And it's a slippery slope, because we start with a dance-off, and who knows what'll happen after Money in the Bank. We might be right back to bra and panties matches. It is a slippery slope.
And we always feel like we are just a half a step away from going that far back. I mean, they just signed Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
Like an actual fighter.
Yes.
Like one of the greatest, if not the greatest female athlete in the world. And on SmackDown Live, we had a dance-off.
Yeah.
Like, it just...
What a stunning indictment of SmackDown's women's division right there.
It's crazy. It truly, truly is. So...
Get your act together, people.
But trying to take a positive tone on it. What would we like to see happen for the women of SmackDown Live? You talked a little bit about potentially a Becky Lynch heel turn. Mm-hmm. Do you want to elaborate on that? Do you have any other thoughts for things you'd like to see? I
do think generally you do need to develop some bad women, some badass women who are bad on SmackDown. There's no one for us to really hate that we know really well. Obviously Charlotte works well as a face, works well as a heel. I don't want her to turn heel. I love cheering for her. I do think Becky Lynch is the most logical person. I also think as Andrade becomes more of an established character, I think Zelina Vega can absolutely move into the women's division while still managing Andrade. She did a little bit of that on NXT. She only had one match in NXT, but she obviously has great in-ring skills, came up through Impact, very good on the mic. I think, like, get you a girl who can do both. You got her. You need to use her to her full potential. I think that's someone who's overlooked because we haven't seen enough of her yet. I think for me, the thing that you need to do is establish some bad guys.
Yes.
Some bad girls. And once you do that, I think you kind of just let it go from there and don't book women in non-wrestling matches. Don't do it.
Don't do it. Let them wrestle. That's why they're there.
They're wrestlers. They wrestle. Make them wrestle.
No, I think I would love to see that. I'd love to see Zelina Vega more in the ring. The same way that I was very excited to hopefully see Maurice return to the ring when she had that opportunity with Cena and Nikki Bella, even though we didn't see her wrestle much. But I totally agree with you. I think she's like an all-around phenomenal performer, and I would love to see her highlighted more. I don't think it's too late, and I just think it's a truly, truly missed opportunity to not capitalize on the Iconics right now.
Yeah.
I think that the Iconics are the breath of fresh air that SmackDown Live needed, and I think there is a way to do it that we didn't see in NXT. Like, we are looking at two people who were never the NXT Women's Champion.
Never.
So we've never seen that rivalry play out. We've never seen that best friendship end. We've never seen it tested. And, like, it is such... Like, in my mind, that's the real Money in the Bank. Like, that is what is best for business. Like, there is such an easy feud to play up about how Peyton Royce is widely regarded as the better wrestler. But Billie Kay really is the leader of the pack. She really is she's the instigator. She's the mean girl. She's the Regina George. And to have them fight in such a way that, I don't know, maybe put them in a triple threat match where Billie becomes the champion, to really see that feud take off, to see them turn on each other after that, to maybe see a face Peyton Royce. Like, you could have that go. That's a year-long build.
Definitely.
But it can't be a year-long build if right now they're working together and both losing. They have to be strong. And if they're strong, you can see, I mean, we've seen Carmella, who was truly trash when she arrived on the main roster.
Yeah.
She was really bad. She had really bad in-ring skills. She was really bad on the mic. Her character didn't make any sense. Like, she didn't make sense not as the manager of Enzo and Cass. Yeah. Like, we've really seen her take incredible strides.
Absolutely.
And now
coming
she's
to her
champion.
Own. Yeah.
And I think Billie Kay and Peyton Royce are starting so ahead of the game in that way when you look at a potential NXT call-up, that their potential and their ability is so easily cultivated if you just gave it the time.
Yeah.
And if they came out as strong, you could see them fight Asuka, especially because they have the edge of that there's two of them.
Absolutely.
So it makes it a lot more plausible, a lot more quickly for them to contend against women like Asuka, women like Charlotte, women like Becky, and for them to really come into their own as superstars.
I agree. I think it was a big missed opportunity. Easy storyline there. When they debuted, what did they do? They effectively paved the way for Carmella to, like, win. I think they should have been rolling with her from that point forward and been able to back her up a little bit, give themselves some legitimacy, ride her coattails a little bit, and have a reason to be stronger than they are. And I think that's a huge missed opportunity, but all the points that you made are right. I think the Iconics are the most underutilized group. They just need to be made stronger so their eventual implosion into from Iconics to one Iconic and one other Iconic will be engaging, interesting, and awesome.
I think that, hey, WWE, you've got those two ideas, Zelina Vega and the Iconics. They're free. Let's see it, please. And let's never see another weird, terrible dance-off ever again. So that concludes our main event. I think we've gotten all of our feelings out. We can't wait to hear any thoughts you guys might have. And now we're going to finish off the show the way that we do every week with our Stars of the Night.
Our number 3 star of the night is Shinsuke Nakamura. He beat Tye Dillinger, which is too bad, but at least we got to see Tye Dillinger. Shinsuke has been working this heel gimmick really well. He's changed his obsession from 2 balls to 10 seconds, which is fine. I'm happy with that. And he looked very strong this week. And he looks like he's gonna, I don't know, he might do it at Money in the Bank. We shall see. And number 2 is Big E and the rest of the New Day. Big E got the pin on The Miz this week in what was a fantastic 6-man tag match. Really fun to watch. I mean, many false finishes, but still very enjoyable. And Big E looking super strong. Definitely my pick from the New Day. And yours too. Definitely a good choice for Money in the Bank. And the number 1 star of the night, Samoa Joe, came out right at the beginning of SmackDown Live, climbed the ladder, grabbed that briefcase and like took us to church. He told us that Jacob's ladder led him to heaven and that Samoa Joe's ladder will do the same for him. I am 100% on board with Samoa Joe as a huge badass. He has shown that heels can overcome damaging losses like he had at Backlash to Roman Reigns. He's bounced back. He's in Money in the Bank in what would have been really a match to remember had Big Cass just like stayed in the back. Daniel Bryan and Samoa Joe, great ring chemistry. Samoa Joe put him to sleep. It was a great match. Samoa Joe, you deserve it.
Well, that'll do it for us here at Tag Me In Bro. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Tag Me In Bro and subscribe to the podcast. We're on iTunes, SoundCloud, Podbean, TuneIn. I think we're on iHeartRadio. As always, we're eager to hear your thoughts, your comments, questions, concerns, answers. So let us know what you liked, what you hated, and what you could give a fuck about. Ooh, I know. From my co-host, Tommy Rowe, I've been Taryn O'Connor. Thanks for listening to Tag Me In Bro, and we will see you next week for another episode of SmackDown Live. Goodbye, universe.
Goodbye, universe.